What's going on? Play Game here, back with another Epic 7 video, and today is Lionheart Cermia in Arena and RTA. We're bringing her in, testing her out on a Lifesteal set. And so we're bringing her on a Lifesteal set because it is the only set that we have that has pretty decent defensive substats. And it worked okay. It worked decent enough for at least regular arena. I think that if we were to continue to use her in RTA, and you'll see some of the videos in the end where we do bring her into RTA, she didn't do that great because she was too slow. I think ideally we would put her on a speed set, like a speed crit set, or I don't know, a speed pen set, something like that, right? If you can get the crit damage, just for that extra damage on the S1. But in this first fight here, you'll see that we weren't able to do much because we didn't bring the right type of support for her, even though she does get activated by 2, potentially even 3 units. So the C.Lilias, the Politis, and the Rimuru all activate the Cermia, but she can easily get overwhelmed if there are a lot of counters or dual attacks or extra attacks on the opposing team, especially if you're running her similarly to how I'm running her, where she's a little bit slower. She's not going to be able to do much because of the way that her kit is built. Now, she is kind of a selfish hero. She only buffs herself. So she does give herself defense buff and effect res. The defense buff gives her a 60% increase in defense, and the effect resistance buff gives her 50% effect res. But you have to keep in mind that that's only added on top of whatever effect res she has. And so that's one of the biggest things that I noticed when I was trying her out, is that she is very easily controlled if you don't build any kind of effect res on her. So it might be easy to get some stray effect res there. I think we have like 30 effect res on the gear that we ended up putting her on, which only gives her what, like 80, I believe, 80 effect res. So it's not enough. It's not enough, especially in arena where sometimes people build their dark units, like for example Fallen CC, with a lot of effectiveness to provoke light units. And so that's kind of what happened from time to time. Our Cermia would get provoked just constantly, and if she doesn't get activated fairly soon, she really doesn't do much, because you have to wait until there's an extra attack, dual attack, for Cermia to actually proc her S2. But once she does, you have the ability to deal a decent amount of damage. We have her, I believe, like close to 350 crit damage. She's 320 crit damage with Draco plate, which she does okay. She does okay damage, nothing insane. You also have to remember that she has no molas on the S3. So we usually like to test out units without the molas just to see if they're good without. Usually if a unit is good without molas, then giving them molas is going to be something that can be very, very beneficial. But if they kind of are meh without molas, it doesn't really convince me to give them molas. Just because we are free to play, so you do have to remember that. So molas are a very limited resource. I know we get a lot more than we used to, but sometimes you kind of have to really pick and choose who you give molas to. But especially someone like Lionheart Cermia, even though she is an ML unit, she is a very high investment unit. You for sure have to mola her S2. So if you're thinking about priorities, it's going to be her S2, just to reduce the skill cooldown, because it starts at every 3 turns. You can get it down to 2. So her skill activates where she gets the defense and effect res every 2 turns. And this is why you really want her to have some type of speed. You don't want her Omega slow, because then she's never going to cycle through that. and you want her to cycle so that you can get her S3 up. And then you want her S3 up so you can deal insane amounts of damage if you have it max molded with that Death Pen on the AoE. Now, even if you don't have a lot of speed, her S1 does increase her speed by 30%, so it gives her a speed buff. But if you're running her really slow like me, it doesn't really matter, right? And you'll see that in most of my RTA fights, since she is on the slower end. I think at this speed, at like the 170-ish speed, she would probably be better on counter, like on a counter build, maybe with like tanky supports. But you'll see here we get pretty much controlled. And even though I believe the Politis, I think the Politis procced, or if she didn't, we don't do anything with the Cermia there. She's pretty much a dead pick. Arby pretty much solos the rest of the team. We aren't able to take out that Violet even though we get the crit in. So that Violet is like 20k HP or something insane. But we finally activate there on the ML Cermia. But for the most part, she just kind of stands there. And that's kind of one of the things that, you know, is very unfortunate about her kit, is she is very selfish. So when you see her just standing there, not doing anything, it's a feels bad until she gets a turn, and then she pretty much wrecks everybody's faces. As you can see there, she's able to crit the Violet because sure, why not? And we aren't super high on the ladder. We just broke champion, so we're on the lower end of champion. We don't really play too much RTA, but you know, we're trying to test Cermia and see how she does in regular RTA. So for this next one, we pretty much just get Cleave. And so that's kind of the thing. Cermia and her base speed, there's no way that you're gonna go first or be able to follow up with her if you're gonna get Cleave, right? If you're bringing in additional speed units, maybe, but even then, it's gonna be very difficult for her to follow up unless you have her built very, very fast. Like maybe 220-ish, 230-ish speed. Even then, I think that's pushing it for her base speed. So I think ideally you want to bring her on a tankier team. Otherwise, it's going to be very easy for her to get controlled and then pretty much do nothing. On this next one, you'll see that we do go up against this Rimuru, and Rimuru here does activate the ML Cermia and does proc the defense buff and effect res, but for the most part, when you want her to go, you want the opposing team not to have any kind of defensive buffs like barriers or skill nullifiers. And so that's kind of the thing where we were. And so we really need to play around with her gear, maybe even potentially farm defensive sets that have some sort of speed, because there were often times where the opposing player brought in like FCC, got the skill null, and then we procced, but we couldn't do anything because they had skill. So we had to wait another turn. Even though we got speed buff from the S1, we still had to kind of wait another turn until she was able to cycle back through. And so she is going to be, I would say, like a turn 2 type of player. She's not going to be, I think, every single pick, every single game, like first pick every single game. I don't think she's that insanely broken. She's going to be very situational. You know, we tried, of course, to force her every single fight. And of course, she didn't work every single fight. The only fights that she did work slightly better in were those that we were able to bring some type of bulky support with her. We tried her with squishies. We tried her with some bulk. We tried her in speed teams, a little bit aggro, but for the most part, she worked a little bit better with more support and more tankiness around her. Because on her own, again, she's very selfish, so she doesn't really contribute anything at all to the team. And so you'll see in this next one, you know, there was a potential for us to be able to take out the team, but our Politis isn't able to take out this Angel of Light. And that's kind of what all of these other MLs provide, right? They provide some kind of attack buff, some kind of damage mitigation, something that is going to support the entire team. And so when the ML Kaware goes, he's going to cleanse everything from the opposing team. And you'll see that our Cermia is still unbuffable. She's attack broken. Not that any of that matters with the way that her kit is built, but it still keeps her from, let's say, for example, getting a buff from an opposing unit or from another unit on your team. This one here, she gets locked down, she gets provoked, so there's not really anything that we could do because she hasn't taken a turn. And so I think that's another one of her downfalls, is that if she never takes any turns, she's not going to cycle through her S2, meaning she's not going to cleanse more than once, and then you're just going to get on this next one here. This last fight, I think, is a perfect example of how you want to bring her. If you do bring her on your RTA team, you're going to want to build some supports around her, tanky teams. And this is something that I think she's probably going to excel at. So if you're going up against very squishy teams, as you can see, I have Politis, Spec 10A, and Carrot there. 0 damage mitigation, but as you can see, we aren't able to deal enough damage or get any stuns on the ML Cermia, the Conquer Lilias, or the Belian. So once she's activated, she pretty much goes. That Cermia is at least like 210, 215-ish speed, because my Stene is close to 200 speed. So again, the faster you can build her, the better. Here is my Lionheart Cermia. As I mentioned, we do have her on Lifesteal. She's on a Lifesteal offset with Draco plate. So we do have an imprint into her. We gave her a slate because we needed the crit chance. And even then, we're only able to hit 99.6 crit, 300 crit damage, 168 speed, 12k, almost 13k HP, 1800 defense. Now, ideally, if we had better gear, we would build her with 2k defense at least, as close to as we could get to 200 speed and the same damage stats. There are some builds out there that have her at 100 res, just to take advantage of that resistance buff by 50%. But you definitely want Molas on the S2 so you can get this down to 2 turns. And then max damage, if you are planning to go full ham into Waifu Lermia, you're going to want to max out the damage so you can at least guarantee that when she does get a turn, she's going to deal some type of damage. And then last priority is going to be the S1. It's all damage. It's all max damage. So if you only have Molas for 1, I would say for sure the S2, and then focus on max damage on the S3. But that's going to be it for me. Let me know your thoughts about Lermia, Lionheart Cermia, ML Cermia, whatever you want to call her, in the comment section below. Lifesteal, not so good. Not so good. Even though she did heal for a little bit, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to be the best gear set for her. If you have any other ideas, let me know in the comment section below. Like always, if you haven't enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hey, think about subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people like you who like content like this. Like always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.